All right, so welcome back, Fall Hunter. So we got some responses from the Borderlands 4 dev team. You know, a lot of you console players are looking into the PC world, kind of jealous of some of the features that are on PC, and you're saying, hey, what about us? Well, Randy Pitchford replies about a lot of these issues, and it looks like there is some hope. So at the very least, there's good news there. Plus, we're going to be talking about some major issues surrounding world bosses. We're going to go over some very important things that you could do on console as well to make the experience so much better by simply changing up some things around controls, gameplay, accessibility, and even fine-tuning some of the performance issues that you might be running into on consoles as well. And yes, we're going to go over some really important tips around elemental damage effectiveness versus health, build armor, what you need to use to really make full impact against your enemies, and also a PSA after level 25. This is super important to know, and also some other feedback as well, and how you can obtain a guaranteed free legendary weapon of your choice by simply completing this side mission. So once it pops up, do not neglect it. But yeah, you're probably wondering, hey Robbie, how are we looking with the concurrent player count right now as of the beginning of this weekend? Well, guess what? We're at 188,000 concurrents already. We hit a peak yesterday of 252,000, which is super impressive. But already, this is crazy. I've been sitting here for about 10 minutes and we're at 206,000 actually. I just refreshed it. So I cannot wait to see what the numbers are here by this evening on Saturday. But anyway, let's get into what Randy Pitchford had to say, shall we? So first of all, he tweeted out kind of like this ominous tweet about FOV, the build of view, which is missing from consoles. Check it out. FOV, it's got what plants crave. And people were kind of like scratching their heads going, what in the world does this mean? And it caused an entire discussion out on Reddit. People are saying this. I know people are angry, but this reads to me like he's saying, we're working on it and we hear you. We've gotten confirmation that they're very aware people want FOV on console. But hold up. That's not all Randy Pitchford had to say about this. He actually tweeted out this right here. Quickie for console friends, FOV settings. There are some dreams I have where an FOV setting might affect fairness. I can't really talk about it yet, but I see this is important to you, so we're looking at it. Vote here, and of course you could see overwhelmingly everyone wants an FOV slider on console. And there were some replies that I definitely want to highlight here. Killer6 saying this, field of view is absolutely an accessibility feature. Low FOV can cause motion sickness and dizziness for some players, myself included. It needs to be implemented in whatever cool feature it costs. And then also, it's on PC, Randy. What the F are you talking about? Sounds like a cop-out. Just add an FOV slider and fix FPS. It's unplayable when playing co-op on PS5 Pro. Yeah, you know, I was shocked to hear that there wasn't an FOV slider by default. A lot of games have this stuff by default. And then also, when it comes to the motion blur, a lot of guys are really bothered by that as well, where Randy Pitchford actually said this about motion blur. Quickie for my console friends, motion blur, not us. We aren't down with motion blur and do not support it. If you're seeing what seems to be motion blur, maybe check your television settings for whatever automatic BS it might be doing to your image. It's not us. And we got this reply here. You absolutely do not disable motion blur by default. I had to turn it off on my PC version of Borderlands 4, LOL. And we got this comment here from Jack saying, Randy, it is you guys. The game has motion blur on console. Please give us an option to turn it off. Yeah, so it seems like this issue needs more investigating before I think the dev team give a concrete answer as to what's going on here. So I hope that they give us an update as to what's going on with motion blur. So for those of you that are on consoles, let me know, are you experiencing a lot of motion blur when you're playing the game, or does it look pretty crisp? I'm very curious your take on this one. I haven't booted up on my PS5 Pro at all. I hope to down the road, but the FOV slider thing is a big issue for me personally. I really need that feature big time. Now, also, if you're wondering, heading into this weekend, will we see potentially problems with the servers? Well, guess what? They're confident that no, do not expect any issues. In fact, Randy Pitchford said, so here's the thing with this. We are very confident in our backend online infrastructure and systems, and we're off to an insane start, record breaking. But we know from past experience that peak numbers will start really hitting over this weekend. You're going to be hammering our online infrastructure And some people are nervous if our online systems can handle the numbers you'll be throwing at us. But here's the thing, our online team rules. And it's a pretty long-winded post. I'm not going to read all of it, but he does say this: if concurrency does break our systems, they'll find a way to reward everyone and make it up to everyone for showing that it can break. So he challenges you guys to essentially get online with absolutely everyone you can and see how smooth it should run. We'll see what happens here, if it breaks or not. But yes, challenge accepted. All right, so also, yeah, let's talk about world bosses, because there's definitely been some issues around the world bosses. Check it out right here. World bosses instantly despawning if you so much as touch the outer wall is utterly fucked. When this first happened to me, I was like, what? Where did he go? What the hell happened? So title, this needs to be higher up on the list of things that Gearbox needs to address, because it's absolutely absurd. I'd understand if you couldn't attack from the other side of the barrier. I'd understand if you had a limited window to get back into the fight. As it is, if one player steps barely outside the dome, the boss will vanish forever. No takebacks. It feels incredibly awful, and it's very easy to make the mistake in an unfamiliar area during a frenetic battle. I cannot be the only person who's had this happen to them, and it's the only real gripe I have about what's otherwise been a good experience. So this definitely needs to be fine-tuned and adjusted for sure. But my question for you guys is, how do you think they should go about adjusting this? We did get some ideas here. Check it out. I just think they should make it a Thunderdome. Go in, you win, or exit by death. Just get locked in. Deaths don't have a negative effect, and then make sure you know it's going to happen in the tutorials. So do you guys like that idea? Do you think that is one way they could potentially solve this problem? Honestly, I think what they should do is, if you exit the barrier, they just have kind of like a timer countdown that warns you, hey, you're exiting the boss battle, but they give you plenty of time to get back in there. It's quite simple. I don't think it's going to be that complicated of a fix. Now, for those of you guys that are on consoles, you're going to want to listen up, because this should make your experience so much better, at least according to what people are saying in the replies, that it's helped them so much with actual playability, how the game feels. So check it out. Borderlands 4 console players, fix these settings. For console players, if you find Borderlands 4 just doesn't feel right, fix these settings. Control basic, set all horizontal and vertical setting levels to 2, set cursor speed to 0.5, and the same for cursor friction to 0.5. Now, controls head to advanced. For both left and right stick, set all dead zone settings to 1% and to 0.5. Now, this one in particular, a lot of people complimented. So yeah, check it out, try it out, see if it helps. Gameplay basic, this is optional, but you can get a traditional radar back, but turning, I think it's supposed to be by turning toggle radar display radar. And then accessibility for gameplay, grapple view tilt off, camera head bob, 75% my personal preference, though some people like more, others less. All right, so turning these settings will make the game feel much better. You can set your dead zone down to 0, but that may introduce drift. You can also adjust your sensitivity levels higher if you want, but start at 2 and tweak. So try it out. I'll throw this post in the description down below, so you can just, have it up and read it for yourself. But hopefully this actually improves your experience. I'm seeing so many compliments about this post, and it helps it feel less clunky, more smooth of an experience. Now, also, we got to talk about some other tips that actually have improved performance for those of you that are on console as well, but not everyone's going to want to do this one. Essentially, switch to local mode. That's the gist of it. Apparently, this helps with frame pacing, and it doesn't make it feel so, uneven with the frame rate. I guess it improves it by a lot. It's got a lot of attention. People really complimenting that one, so try it. Now, let's get into some more tips here about elemental damage effectiveness. Check it out. Mental Mars posted this out. Conquer Kairos with the most effective damage types that Borderlands 4 has to offer. And this chart is brilliant. It goes on to show the effectiveness of the element that you might be using versus things like health, shield, and armor. So for example, you're not going to want to use Incendiary against armor. You're going to want to use it against health, of course. Now, when it comes to armor, you're going to want to use Corrosive and Cairo, and you could get the idea here. Again, I'm going to throw this link in that description below so you could pull it up as reference when you are actually playing Borderlands 4, and I think that could be super helpful for sure. Now, some interesting things happen after level 25, so you're going to want to pay attention here. So, PSA, level 25 unlocks a huge number of licensed gun parts, and if you're like me in the early part of the game, it felt like the guns were all kind of the same-ish. For all that they bragged about with the licensed gun parts in streams and previews mixing things up, it really felt like it was either too rare to find a decent gun with licensed parts, or it didn't really change much. Well, it turns out that's because you don't unlock most of the licensed parts functionality until level 25. After that, not only do licensed parts become way more common, with most purples have 2 to 3, you also unlock a lot more parts, including ones from previous games like Hyperion, COV, and Atlas. So the more you know, if you're kind of like wondering what's going on the loot, if you feel like it's not as interesting, well, it's going to get interesting, so don't worry. But, you know, overall, I felt like the beginning of the game, for me at least personally, was an absolute blast. Just getting even like the purples and stuff like that. Every new drop, you know, was kind of like addicting to pick up. But anyway, there's also some other cool stuff that you guys want to see. Simple things, quality of life improvement stuff. Please, I need the money counter thing back. Sad face. Let me know if you guys are on the same page with this guy right here. And he says, I feel like this is too iconic of a thing. I loved seeing the money counter. Not going to lie. LOL. It's not Borderlands without it. Okay. 955 upvotes. Yeah, they should just have a toggle option for those of you that want that. In fact, the currency is completely hidden underneath the menu, which is just ridiculous. I highlighted that in my previous video. Now, we also have a massive Borderlands 4 tip regarding one of the side missions. If you see this side mission pop up, I highly recommend taking it on. So check it out right here. Massive Borderlands 4 tip. Completing the side mission Bend of the Line in Carcadia Burns will reward you with a free legendary weapon of your choice. I highly recommend completing this mission despite it taking a little to get through. So you can see right here how you get this assortment of legendaries that you can pick. And this clip is from Epic NG. So yeah, this is some great advice. So if you do see that side mission pop up, do not neglect it, whatever you do. But yeah, you guys know what time it is. It's time to go over your top comments. As always, leave a comment down below. And remember, if you are new, welcome aboard. Smack that subscribe button to stay in the know and updated about all things Borderlands 4. All right, let's get into what you guys had to say about my most recent video. We got this one right here. I am begging for FOV sliders and motion blur toggle on PS5. They got to do it. It's just such a talked about thing right now. The console community is desperate for these simple features, and I really do hope that they put this at the top of the priority list for you all. And again, the same sentiment here. I just want an FOV slider that goes to 110. That's it. On base PS5, this runs actually fine. So we'll see, but there's some hope from what Randy Pitchford said. So that's the only thing we can go off of. And then we have, if I had to use DLSS or God forbid, frame gen to hit 60 frames per second, the game optimization is shit. Those options should be a cherry on the top to push out more performance, not a clutch to get a playable frame rate. Yeah, I completely agree with you on that one. I myself, I am running DLSS and frame gen just to get to 120 frames per second. Now, without frame gen, I would probably be getting 60 to 90 frames per second, but you know, I really want the 120 frames per second, and I don't even want to have to use any of this stuff, DLSS or frame gen. I do consider my PC to be pretty beefy. I'm running a 4080 Super, of course, not like the 50 series graphics cards, but I really do feel like that the game needed to be more optimized. But you know, since we're on the topic of how the game is running, we got this comment right here on Xbox Series X. Game is running perfectly for me. I'm loving it so far. So there are some of you that are having a really good time with how it is running. And there are people saying that there's only real issues on PC with performance. You know, again, I'm not too sure if that's true. Console players, sound off how it is performing for you guys. I'm not going to speak for you guys. But anyway, there it is. The latest happenings around Borderlands 4. Stay tuned here for more news and updates. I have you guys covered. And I will see you all next time. Take care.